There's no faith without obedience. And sometimes that obedience is very costly. Let me explain. Faith is not believing in spite of the evidence. Some people say, well, you're a Christian, you just have taken a blind leap into the dark and you just faith, there's no facts. Actually, there's plenty of facts. There's plenty of evidence for believing God created the heavens and the earth. There's plenty of evidence for believing in God. There's plenty of evidence for trusting the Bible. We have all the evidence we need. So faith isn't believing in spite of the evidence. Faith is more a matter of obeying in spite of the consequence. You see, if you really trust God, you're going to obey even when it's costly. Real faith is sometimes very costly, and it involves costly obedience. Think about Abraham. It doesn't get any more costly than this. God told him to offer his son as a sacrifice to show that he loved God more than his own son, his dearly beloved son, who he waited 99 years to receive. And it says, by faith, Abraham, when he was tested, offered up Isaac. And he who had received the promises offered up his only begotten son. He obeyed. Costly obedience. And then it says, he did this, concluding that God was able to raise him up even from the dead. How could he do this? Why did he do this? Because he considered God was able. God was big enough. God was big enough to take this situation and bring glory to himself and good out of the situation. That's faith and costly obedience. Moses, God called him, and he realized when he was about 40 years old that he was a Hebrew, even though he was being trained to be somebody in Pharaoh's cabinet. He was raised by Pharaoh's own daughter. It says, by faith, Moses, when he became of age, refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter. He obeyed. Now, that was costly to choose to refuse to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter, choosing rather to suffer affliction with the people of God than to enjoy the passing pleasures of sin. That's a costly obedience. That's faith. Esteeming the reproach of Christ greater riches than the treasures in heaven. Now, how could he do this? For he was looking for a reward. By faith he forsook Egypt, not fearing the wrath of the king, and he endured as seeing him who is invisible, God himself. How could Moses stand with God against his Egyptian masters? How could he stand with the people of God, even though it was so costly? Well, he chose the eternal things over the temporary things. Egypt only offered pleasure for a season. God offers eternal life and paradise forever. He chose heavenly rewards, the ones that really matter and the ones that really last, over the earthly ones. And because of that, he obeyed. Are you willing to obey God even when it's costly? Real faith is obedience, and often costly obedience.